Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a fascinating journey into university life, using some excellent materials you shared with us.
That's right.
We're going to explore what exactly a university is, what the experience of being a student is really like, maybe uncover some surprising facts connected to higher education.
And look at some useful language, too, I believe.
Definitely. Words you might come across. Our mission really is to give everyone listening a clear and engaging picture of university and why it's, pretty significant.
Absolutely. And our exploration today, it's mainly built upon that broadcast piece you mentioned, the one titled English Basic Broadcast All About University Life.
Right.
It's a really solid starting point for understanding the core elements, I think.
Okay, great. Let's dive right in then. First off, what is a university? It sounds straightforward, maybe, but I suspect there's more to it than just being like the next step after high school.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, at its heart, a university is a higher education institution. It offers specialized learning.
Specialized, okay.
Yeah. And that leads to academic qualifications. I think bachelor's degrees, that's usually your first one.
Mm-hmm.
Then it may be master's for more focused study. And PhDs, which are, doctorate level.
Mm-hmm.
The highest academic degrees, really.
So it's a definite move into specific fields of knowledge beyond just general education.
Precisely. It's about depth.
What's really interesting, and I saw this in the material, is where the word university even comes from.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, it has Latin roots. The term universitas, which originally meant something like a community of teachers and scholars.
Universitas. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it really emphasizes that idea of a collaborative sort of intellectual environment right from the start.
It does. And that focus on community, it fostered this really rich environment for intellectual exchange in those early universities.
And connecting that to today.
Well, modern universities have evolved, obviously. They're much more than just places of teaching now. They're also vital centers for research, innovation, invention even.
Right. It's easy to sometimes think of universities as being a bit separate, maybe, from the quote-unquote real world.
Yeah, the ivory tower idea.
Exactly. But the source material gives this incredible example of just how connected they can be. Google.
Oh, the Google origin story.
The tech giant we all use, it actually started as a university project.
It's amazing, isn't it? A really powerful illustration of the potential for groundbreaking developments to just emerge from these academic settings.
Totally. And the material suggested this isn't just a one-off, right? Universities are often fertile ground for different disciplines working together, accessing cutting-edge research.
Exactly. It creates an environment where these big ideas can actually take root and, be nurtured.
It really underscores that idea that universities aren't these isolated places, but are actually deeply connected to how society progresses, how innovation happens.
Mm-hmm. When you think about universities, do you primarily see them as places of study, or do you also kind of factor in that role in driving broader advancements?
I think I see both, but that Google example, it really does bring the innovation part into sharp focus. It's quite something.
It is.
All right, so we have a better handle on what a university is. Now, what about the actual experience? What's university life all about day to day?
Well, the source material highlights this key aspect. It's a balancing act.
Okay.
University life offers, considerably more freedom than high school. Definitely.
Right. No bells ringing, probably.
Probably not. But that freedom, it comes hand in hand with increased personal responsibility, a lot more responsibility.
Okay. So you're expected to manage your own time, your studies, often your living situation, too.
Exactly. That's a big part of it.
And the podcast, the source, mentioned typical things like attending lectures.
Yeah, lectures. Those are basically the formal talks given by professors. Standard stuff.
Right. And getting involved in clubs, societies, and of course the famous late-night study sessions.
Oh yeah, can't forget those.
Mm-hmm.
It paints a pretty relatable picture, I think, of what students actually do.
It does. And the living arrangements often sound like a defining part of it all.
They really are. Many students live in dorms right on campus, or maybe in shared apartments nearby.
And that forces a certain independence.
Definitely. It fosters independence, develops essential life skills, managing time, money, living with other people, which isn't always easy.
I can imagine. And for many, especially if they're studying internationally, university sounds like a real melting pot.
Oh, absolutely. The source points out it's a fantastic opportunity to connect with people from incredibly diverse backgrounds, different cultures.
So that social aspect, building a network, That must be a really significant part of the whole thing.
It really is. That exposure to different perspectives, it can be incredibly enriching, both personally and academically. It just broadens your horizons, cultivates a more global way of thinking, maybe.
What stands out to you most about that description? Is it the freedom, the responsibility, or those social opportunities that seem most, I don't know, impactful?
That's a good question. I think maybe the interplay, like you said earlier, between the freedom and the responsibility feels like a real turning point for people.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Let's move on to some more concrete information. The source talks about scientific facts regarding university education. What kind of evidence are we talking about here?
Yeah, building on those personal experiences, let's look at the broader impacts, what the data tells us.
Okay.
What's fascinating here is the documented connection between getting a university education and some really tangible advantages.
Like what?
Well, studies suggest that university graduates, on average, tend to earn more money throughout their careers.
Ah, the financial benefit.
Yeah, that increased earning potential is often, let's be honest, a primary motivation for people pursuing higher education in the first place.
That makes total sense. It's a huge investment, right? Time and money. So the prospect of better financial rewards later on is a big factor for many.
Definitely. But it's not just about the money, is it?
No. What else?
The source also mentions that university graduates are reported to live longer lives.
Whoa, okay. Live longer. That's a pretty striking statistic. How does that work? How could going to university actually help you live longer?
It is striking, isn't it? And it seems to align with broader research into, the factors that influence health and general well-being.
Okay.
The OECD report, that was part of the material you shared, it highlighted that on average. And I don't have the exact percentages in front of me, but university graduates in member countries tend to have significantly higher employment rates and a longer life expectancy compared to those without a degree.
Wow. So higher employment and longer life expectancy. Those figures suggest a really strong correlation then between higher education and both economic stability and, well, overall health.
It seems so. It suggests the connection is pretty robust.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's not just about landing that good job. It really looks like a university education can have a much broader positive impact on your overall well-being.
That seems to be the implication, yes. And beyond those large-scale outcomes, the source also emphasizes the development of specific skills.
Right, not just knowledge, but skills.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
University isn't solely about gaining knowledge in, say, biology or history. It actively fosters crucial abilities like critical thinking.
Okay, analyzing information objectively.
Yes. And problem-solving skills, effective communication, all of which are highly valuable in a huge range of careers and just life situations generally.
That makes sense. And for people listening who might be learning English, the source makes a really direct and important point here too.
Ah, yes, the language aspect.
It says attending university in an English-speaking country is an incredibly effective way to significantly improve your English fluency.
Absolutely. Immersing yourself in that linguistic environment must be a real game changer.
You think?
Oh, definitely. It provides a level of immersion and, crucially, consistent practice that's just really hard to replicate elsewhere. You're not just learning the language in a classroom, you're actively using it in your studies, your social interactions, everyday life.
Right, you're forced to use it constantly.
Exactly. For someone looking to boost their English, do you think the academic demands of university would be more of a helpful motivator in that language learning process, or maybe an overwhelming challenge?
That's a really interesting question. I guess it could be both, depending on the person and the support they get.
True.
Okay, now to make all this a bit more tangible, the source breaks down some useful vocabulary linked to university life. Let's quickly go through these key terms.
Good idea. The first term is lecture.
Lecture, right?
Which, as the source explains, is basically a formal presentation given to students, usually by a professor. It's a primary way information gets delivered in a lot of university courses.
Got it. Next up is campus.
Campus. This refers to the buildings and the surrounding land, the grounds, that belong to a university.
So the physical place itself.
Yeah, the physical heart of the university where all the academic stuff and a lot of the social life happens.
Okay. Then we have degree.
Degree. An official qualification. It's awarded to students after they successfully complete their university studies.
Like a bachelor's, master's, PhD.
Exactly those.
And finally, tuition.
Tuition. This is the money, the fee,
Yeah.
that students pay for the instruction they receive at the university.
Right, the cost of learning.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
And it's often a significant expense that students and families have to factor in.
No kidding. These seem like really fundamental terms for just understanding the university environment.
They are. Having a grasp of these basic concepts is definitely key.
And to really see how these words pop up in like everyday context, the source gives us a short, practical example, a sort of real talk scenario between two students.
Yes, the dialogue example. Let's look at that. So in the example, one student kicks things off asking, hey, what are you studying? Pretty standard opener.
Right.
And the other responds, I'm studying biology. I have a lecture on genetics this afternoon. So boom, there's lecture used naturally, just part of the daily schedule.
Simple enough. Then the first student asks about where they live. Cool. Do you live on campus?
Mm-hmm. To which the second student replies, yes, I do. It's convenient, but the tuition fees are pretty high.
Ah, okay. So there we get campus and tuition used together, talking about the practical side, the cost versus convenience.
Exactly. And the conversation wraps up with the first student kind of acknowledging the cost, but being optimistic. Tell me about it. But I think the degree will be worth it.
Highlighting the value placed on getting that degree despite the high tuition.
Precisely. That brief exchange, it really does help illustrate how these vocabulary words slot into a real-world kind of setting.
It definitely does. Seeing them used in a realistic chat makes them much more memorable, I think, and easier to understand than just a list of definitions.
Absolutely. Context is everything.
So, to kind of bring everything together now, let's quickly summarize what we've explored in our deep dive today, all drawing from that insightful material you shared.
Okay. We've looked at the definition and the origins of the word university.
Right, the universitas.
Exactly. We explored the multifaceted experience of being a university student, the freedom, the responsibility, the social side. We examined some pretty compelling data suggesting, financial, health, and skill-based benefits that come with higher education.
Yeah, the earnings, longevity, critical thinking.
And we broke down some essential vocabulary, lecture, campus degree, tuition used in that university context.
All illustrated with that practical student conversation at the end.
That's the gist of it.
So, considering this really rich blend of academic learning, personal growth, and those potential long-term advantages that these sources highlight, here's something to think about. What aspect of the university experience resonates most with you, the listener? And how might that influence your own future learning journey? Or maybe just your perspective on it all?
Yeah, it's certainly a lot to consider.